The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated silently in the dark void between star systems. Inside its crystal walls, 7 different alien species had gathered for the most important meeting in galactic history. The air buzzed with tension as translators worked to convert dozens of different languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Veldar stood at the center of the Great Hall. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw rainbow colors across the walls. Around him sat the representatives of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The bug-like Zephyrians clicked their mandibles nervously. The tall, proud warriors of the Crothan Empire gripped their ceremonial weapons. Ancient beings called Melodians hummed low songs that made the station's metal walls vibrate. We have all agreed. Veldar's voice rang out like wind chimes. The humans have gone too far. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. For 50 years, humanity had been spreading across the galaxy like a plague. They built colonies on worlds that other species considered too dangerous. They traded with anyone willing to make a deal. They asked too many questions and explored places that should have been left alone. "They are chaotic," hissed the Zephyrian speaker, her insect-like head twitching. "They do not follow the natural order. Each human thinks differently. They cannot be predicted or controlled." The Crothan general slammed his fist on the table. "They show no respect for the ancient ways. They mock our traditions and ignore our warnings. They are a threat to everything we have built." One by one, each species listed their complaints. The humans were too curious, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They had been warned to slow their expansion, but they only moved faster. They had been told to respect galactic law, but they found ways around every rule. "The vote is simple," Veldar announced. "All in favor of declaring war on the human species?" 7 appendages, claws, and crystalline formations rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. "Then it is decided. We declare war on humanity. May the galaxy find peace once they are contained." The decision made, a fast messenger ship was prepared. Its job was simple: fly to Earth and deliver the formal declaration of war. The aliens expected the humans to panic, perhaps try to negotiate, maybe even surrender without a fight. After all, how could one young species stand against the combined might of the entire galaxy? The messenger ship jumped through hyperspace and arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system 3 days later. As it approached the blue and green planet, it was met by a human space station orbiting Earth like a metal moon. Captain Miho Kim stood on the station's observation deck, watching the alien ship approach. He was a tall man with dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to miss nothing. His uniform was simple and practical, not decorated with medals or fancy designs like the alien military outfits. "Sir," called Communications Officer Jaiwan Park from her station. "We're receiving a transmission from the approaching vessel. They say they carry an official message from the Galactic Council." Miho nodded slowly. "Put it through to the main screen." The alien messenger appeared on the view screen. It was a Melodian, its face shifting colors as it spoke in formal, ancient words. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I carry a declaration of war from a unified Galactic Council. Your species has been judged a threat to galactic peace and stability. You have 7 standard days to prepare your surrender terms." The bridge fell silent. Jaiwan looked worried. Other crew members glanced at each other nervously. But Captain Miho Kim did something the aliens had not expected. He smiled. It was not a happy smile or a nervous smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for something for a very long time and was finally getting it. "Officer Park," he said calmly, "send a message to Admiral Donghyun Lee on Earth. Tell him the waiting is finally over." Jaiwan's fingers flew over her controls. "Message sent, sir. What should I tell the alien ship?" Miho thought for a moment, still wearing that strange smile. "Tell them we received their message. Tell them we understand perfectly. And tell them we'll be in touch soon." The Melodian messenger looked confused by the calm response, but ended the transmission and departed for home. As soon as the alien ship was gone, Miho pressed a button on his command chair. Throughout the space station, red lights began flashing. But these were not alarm lights warning of danger. These were activation lights. All across the solar system, similar lights began flashing. On mining stations in the asteroid belt, on cargo ships traveling between planets, on research bases studying distant stars, on colony ships heading to new worlds. Sir, Jaiwin said quietly, "What's Protocol 7? Miho turned from the window and looked at his crew. His smile had grown wider. Protocol 7, Officer Park, is what we've been preparing for since the day we first met aliens 50 years ago. It's what every human military academy has been planning for, what every space station has been built for, what every trade mission has been secretly working toward." He paused and looked back out at the stars. The galaxy just declared war on the one species in the universe that has never really known peace. They think they're teaching us a lesson about power. He chuckled softly. They have no idea what they've just started. 3 weeks after the declaration of war, the first galactic fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Fleet Commander Thekmor of the Crothan Empire stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking out at the human home system with satisfaction. His fleet contained 300 of the galaxy's finest battleships, crewed by the most experienced warriors from 7 different species. "Begin the approach," he ordered his tactical officer. "Scan for human defensive positions." Thekmor expected to find panicked humans hiding behind weak shields, perhaps a few primitive warships trying to protect their homeworld. Instead, his sensors showed something that made no sense. "Commander," his officer reported, voice filled with confusion, "the asteroid belt is showing massive energy readings." "Asteroids do not produce energy," Thekmor growled. "Check your instruments." But as the fleet moved closer to the inner solar system, the truth became impossible to ignore. What they had thought were simple mining stations scattered throughout the asteroid belt were changing. Metal panels slid apart to reveal weapon batteries. Innocent-looking cargo containers opened like flowers, exposing missile launchers and energy cannons. "By the ancient codes," whispered the tactical officer, "those mining stations are military fortresses." Across the asteroid belt, hundreds of structures that had appeared to be civilian mining operations for decades suddenly revealed their true nature. The humans had not built defensive positions after the war declaration. They had been building them for 50 years, disguising them as peaceful industrial sites. Thekmor's fleet suddenly found themselves flying into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. On Earth's orbital command station, Admiral Dong-Yun, Lee watched the approaching alien fleet with calm eyes. He was an older man with gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent his life preparing for this moment. Around him, his staff monitored the unfolding battle with professional efficiency. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Soyang Nam, "all defensive platforms are active. The asteroid belt fortifications are ready for engagement." Dong-Yun nodded slowly. "Signal all stations. Execute full defensive protocol. Show them what human engineering really looks like." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The simple mining drones that had been peacefully collecting minerals for decades suddenly moved with perfect coordination, swarming like angry insects toward the alien fleet. But these were not the slow, clumsy machines the aliens expected. They moved with lightning speed and deadly precision. Cargo ships that had been hauling supplies between Earth and the outer planets suddenly deployed energy shields that rivaled military battleships. Their hulls opened to reveal fighters and bombers that launched in perfectly organized waves. Commander Thekmor watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by enemies that should not have existed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence report said the humans had no significant military presence in this system." His communications officer, a nervous Melodian, sang a reply in harmonious tones. "Sir, we are receiving signals from the human installations. They are not using military frequencies. They're using mining and cargo transmission bands." The terrible truth began to dawn on Thekmor. Every peaceful contact the galaxy had made with humanity over the past 50 years had been a lie. Every mining station, cargo ship, and research facility had been a disguised military installation. The humans had been preparing for war, while pretending to be harmless traders and explorers. Captain Hyunwoo Choi piloted his converted mining ship through the chaos of battle, his weapon systems tearing through alien fighters like paper. His ship looked exactly like a simple or hauler, but hidden inside were weapons and armor that exceeded most military vessels. "Admiral," he reported over the communication channel, "the Crothan flagship is trying to retreat. Should we let them go?" Admiral Dongyun's voice came back cold and clear. "Negative, Captain. They declared war on us. Now they learn the price." The battle lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, the mighty galactic fleet that had entered human space with such confidence was nothing but wreckage floating in the void. Of the 300 ships that had come to conquer humanity, only 12 managed to escape. Those 12 ships carried a message that would terrify every civilization in the galaxy. The humans had been lying from the very beginning. On the bridge of his dying flagship, Commander Thekmore sent his final transmission back to Galactic Command. His ship was torn open and venting atmosphere, but he needed to warn his people of what they faced. "Command! This is Fleet Commander Thekmore," he gasped into his communicator. The humans, they were never peaceful. Every mining station, every cargo ship, every research base, all military installations in disguise. They have been preparing for this war since first contact. We are not fighting a young species learning about conflict. We are fighting a species that has made war into an art form. The transmission cut out as his ship exploded, but the message reached Galactic Command. For the first time in 1,000 years, the combined civilizations of the galaxy felt real fear. They had declared war on humanity, expecting to face frightened primitives. Instead, they had awakened something that had been waiting patiently for this moment for half a century. The trap had been set perfectly, and they had walked right into it. The war had only just begun, and already the galaxy was learning a terrible lesson about the species they had chosen to fight. The war spread across 12 different star systems like wildfire. With each battle, the galaxy learned something new and terrifying about humanity. These were not the simple, chaotic creatures they had expected to fight. These were predators who had turned warfare into a science. Colonel Youngji Kim crept through the dark tunnels of the Zephyrian Hive world with her strike team. The bug-like aliens had built their cities like giant ant colonies, with thousands of tunnels connecting vast underground chambers. For 1,000,000 years, the Zephyrians had lived as one perfect mind, sharing thoughts and working together without any disagreement or confusion. "Deploy the dissonance generators," Youngji whispered to her team. Sergeant Jingwoo Park and Corporal Yunji Cho moved like shadows to the alien structures, placing small devices along the tunnel walls. The Zephyrians had never experienced individual thought. They had never felt doubt, fear, or loneliness. Their hive mind was their greatest strength, allowing millions of them to work together perfectly. But the humans had studied this weakness for decades. When the devices activated, they sent out special sound waves that disrupted the mental connections between the Zephyrians. For the first time in their history, each bug-like alien found themselves alone in their own mind. The effect was devastating. Across the hive world, millions of Zephyrians stopped working and began wandering in circles, confused and terrified by thoughts that belonged only to them. Their perfect unity shattered like glass. "Command, this is Strike Team 7, Youngji reported calmly. "The Zephyrian hive mind is neutralized, moving to secondary targets." Meanwhile, in the Crothan star system, Commander Seachin Lee was fighting a very different kind of war. The Crothan were proud warriors who lived by ancient codes of honor. They fought in formation, challenged enemies to single combat, and never used deception or tricks. Seachin understood this perfectly. He had studied Crothan culture for 15 years while pretending to be a peaceful trader. He knew their laws, their traditions, and most importantly, their weaknesses. General Vorthak of the Crothan Third Fleet, Seachin broadcast on an open channel. "I am Commander Lee of the Human Defense Force. I challenge you to single combat, as your honor code demands." The Crothan general could not refuse. His culture would not allow it. He met Seachin on a small asteroid between their fleets, carrying his traditional weapons and wearing ceremonial armor. What General Vorthak did not know was that Seachin had been trained not just in human combat techniques, but in 17 different alien fighting styles. The duel lasted less than 3 minutes. With their general dead, the Crothan fleet fell into confusion. Their rigid chain of command meant that without proper leadership, they could not adapt to changing tactics. Seachin's ships tore through their formations while they tried to decide who should give orders. On her research station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Myeong Kim coordinated the psychological warfare against multiple species at once. Her team had spent decades studying alien minds, learning how each species thought and what they feared most. The Melodians rely on harmony and shared emotions, she explained to her assistants. Expose them to discordant frequencies, and they become paralyzed. The Vex-High crystalline beings process information through light patterns. Disrupt those patterns, and they cannot think clearly. Each alien species had evolved on worlds where cooperation and peace were necessary for survival. They had never learned to fight dirty, to use deception, or to exploit their enemies' weaknesses. But humans came from Earth, a world where only the strongest and smartest survived. Every species in the galaxy thinks war is about destroying the enemy, Dr. Myeong continued. They do not understand that true warfare is about breaking the enemy's will to fight. It is about making them defeat themselves. On distant Vex-High worlds, human saboteurs use specialized weapons that turn the aliens' crystal cities against them. The Vex-High had built beautiful structures that grew like living things, but they had never considered that those same crystals could be made to vibrate at frequencies that would shatter their own bodies. Captain Jai went to lead a team through a Vex-High crystal garden, planning devices that would resonate at exactly the right frequency. When activated, the aliens' own cities will become weapons against them. Remember, she told her team, we are not here to destroy randomly. Every action has been planned. We know exactly how each species will react because we have been watching them for 50 years. The galaxy began to understand the horrible truth. While they thought they were dealing with peaceful human traders and diplomats, those same humans had been studying every aspect of alien society. They had learned languages, customs, fears, and weaknesses. Every cultural exchange had been an intelligence-gathering mission. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings as reports of defeat poured in from every front. The proud Crothan warriors were being outfought by enemies who ignored all concepts of honor. The perfect Zephyrian hive minds were dissolving into chaos. The ancient Melodian harmony was being shattered by human discord weapons. How do we fight an enemy that turns our strengths into weaknesses? Asked Ambassador Veldar, his crystal form dimmed with defeat. The answer came from a captured human soldier who had been taken prisoner during a raid. When questioned about human tactics, she simply smiled and said, "You evolved on worlds where cooperation meant survival. We evolved on a world where every day was a fight to stay alive. You see war as a last resort. We see it as just another Tuesday." The galaxy was learning that they had not declared war on another civilized species. They had declared war on evolution's perfect predator. The galaxy had seen enough. After months of humiliating defeats, every major civilization called upon their oldest alliances and awakened their most ancient weapons. Fleets that had not moved in centuries began gathering at the Nexus Nebula, a massive cloud of gas and stars at the galaxy's heart. The combined armada was beyond anything ever seen before. Over 10,000 ships from 15 different species formed a wall of metal and energy that stretched across space like a second galaxy. Ancient Melodian world ships sang battle hymns that made nearby stars tremble. Crothan battle cruisers carried warriors who had been in suspended sleep for 1,000 years, waiting for a war worthy of their skills. Even the mysterious shadow dancers from the galaxy's edge had sent their black ships that seemed to bend light around them. Fleet Admiral Jae-yun. Yoon stood on the bridge of the human battleship Soul's Pride, watching the approaching enemy through the viewport. His ship was one of only 200 human vessels facing the massive alien fleet. The odds seemed impossible. "Sir," Commander Yuna Song reported from her tactical station, "final count shows 10,400 enemy ships. They outnumber us 50 to 1. Jae-yun nodded calmly, his fingers moving over his command console. "Then it's a fair fight," he said quietly. Around him, his crew prepared for what looked like humanity's final battle. But Jae-hyun was not worried. For 50 years, humans had been placing pieces on a galactic chessboard. Today, those pieces would finally move. Light years away on the Melodian capital world, a man named Gunwoo Kim sat in his small apartment drinking morning tea. For 20 years, he had lived among the musical aliens as a cultural attaché, studying their art and learning their songs. The Melodians trusted him completely. What they did not know was that Gunwa's apartment sat directly above the planet's main power grid, and that his innocent-looking furniture contained enough explosives to black out half the world. On the crystal cities of the Vex High homeworld, Dr. Chaeyoung Lee finished her morning research in the xenobiology lab, where she had worked for 15 years. The crystalline aliens consider her one of their most valuable researchers, a human who truly understood their silicon-based biology. They had no idea that Dr. Lee's research had been mapping their neural networks for decades, or that the devices she had been placing in their communication centers would soon turn their own networks into weapons against them. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Humans who had lived as traders, diplomats, researchers, and artists for years suddenly revealed their true purpose. They were not immigrants or explorers. They were sleeper agents, planted throughout galactic civilization as part of the longest military operation in history. As the Great Battle began at Nexus Nebula, these hidden humans struck simultaneously across dozens of worlds. Power grids failed. Communication networks turned into virus delivery systems. Military bases found their own security systems working against them. But the real surprise came when the human fleet engaged a massive alien armada. The aliens expected to see primitive human weapons firing simple projectiles. Instead, they faced something that should have been impossible. Captain Do Hyun Kim piloted a ship that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Its hull curved and flowed like a living thing, and it moved through space with the grace of a swimming creature. It was a Zephyrian bioship, designed by the hive mind to be perfectly integrated with its pilot's thoughts. All systems responding perfectly, Do Hyun reported to the fleet. The biological interface is working better than the original Zephyrian design. The aliens watched in horror as their own technology was turned against them, but improved in ways they had never imagined. Humans had taken Zephyrian bioships and added human neural interfaces that allowed for faster reaction times. They had modified Crothan armor to be lighter but stronger. They had improved Vex-High crystal weapons to fire faster and hit harder. How is this possible? Transmitted the Zephyrian Hive Queen. Those are our ships, but they move like they were designed by a species we have never seen. The answer came from Admiral Jaehyun as his fleet tore through the alien formations. Every piece of technology you share with us, every cultural exchange, every trade agreement, it was all intelligence gathering. We have been studying your designs for decades and improving them. The massive alien fleet began to break apart as human forces demonstrated something the galaxy had never seen before. They adapted in real time to changing conditions. When Crothan ships formed traditional battle lines, humans scattered and attacked from unexpected angles. When Melodian world ships sang their coordination songs, human ships broadcast jamming frequencies that turned the music into noise. Lieutenant Soyeon Choi coordinated the battle from her position on Seoul's Pride. Sir, the enemy fleet is beginning to retreat. Several species are requesting individual surrender negotiations. Jaehyun shook his head. No negotiations. No mercy. They declared war on us thinking we were weak and chaotic. Now they learn what happens when you attack a species that has been preparing for this moment since the day we first met aliens. As the battle raged, reports came in from across the galaxy. Every major alien world was experiencing coordinated attacks from within. The galaxy's greatest strength, their interconnected civilization, had become their greatest weakness when humans had infiltrated every part of it. The aliens had gathered the largest fleet in galactic history to destroy humanity. Instead, they were watching their own civilization crumble as humans revealed the true scope of their planning. The war was no longer about containing humanity. It had become about whether galactic civilization would survive what they had awakened. 2 years after the Galactic Council had declared war on humanity, the same crystal chambers of Nexus Prime hosted a very different kind of meeting. The rainbow lights that once danced across the walls now seemed dimmer, reflecting off surfaces that bore the scars of battle. Where proud alien ambassadors had once sat in judgment of humanity, now they waited in silence for their human administrators to arrive. Admiral Dong-Yun Lee entered the great hall with steady steps, his simple gray uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial robes that alien leaders had once worn to these meetings. Behind him walked Minister Jiho Kim. Earth's new director of galactic affairs, and a small group of human officials who now manage what remained of galactic civilization. The alien representatives who had survived the war sat in their designated areas like students waiting for their teacher. Ambassador Veldar's crystal form had lost much of its brilliant shine. The Zephyrian speaker's compound eyes looked empty and confused, still struggling with individual thoughts that her species had never experienced before. The proud Crothan general, who had replaced the ones killed in battle, kept his head bowed in defeat. Dong Hyun took the central seat that had once belonged to the Galactic Council's rotating leadership. The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. 2 years ago, these same aliens had sat in the same place and voted unanimously to destroy humanity. "You called us chaotic," Dong Hyun began, his voice calm and measured. "You said we were too dangerous to be allowed to expand freely across the galaxy. You believed we needed to be controlled or eliminated." He paused, looking at each alien representative in turn. "You were wrong about many things, but you were right about one. We are dangerous, just not in the way you thought." Minister Jiho stepped forward with a data tablet in his hands. "The integration of former galactic territories is now complete. All military assets have been absorbed into human command structure. All major trade routes are now managed by human administrators. All communication networks now route through human-controlled systems." The words fell into chamber like stones into still water. What had once been a galaxy ruled by ancient civilizations spanning millions of years was now managed by a species that had left their home planet less than a century ago. Lieutenant Colonel Soyeon Choi entered the chamber with the day's reports. Her footsteps echoed in the vast space as she approached the human leadership. "Sir, the Outer Rim integration is ahead of schedule. The former Melodian colonies have adapted well to human management. Production is up 30% from pre-war levels." Dong Hyun nodded approvingly. "And the deep space monitoring stations?" "All operational, sir. We now have complete sensor coverage of galactic space and beyond." Ambassador Veldar finally found the courage to speak, his voice like wind chimes in a dying breeze. We did not understand what we were facing. Our intelligence reports said you were a young species, barely out of your home system." "Your intelligence reports were written by humans," replied Minister Jiho with a slight smile. "Every cultural exchange, every trade mission, every diplomatic contact for 50 years was designed to make you see exactly what we wanted you to see." The terrible truth settled over the alien representatives like a heavy blanket. The humans had not simply defeated them in war. They had manipulated them into starting a war that humanity had been preparing for since first contact. "We studied your species for decades," Dong Hyun continued. "We learned your languages, your cultures, your fears, and your weaknesses. We placed our people in your governments, your military, your research institutions. By the time you declared war, we knew you better than you knew yourselves." A new voice interrupted from the chamber's entrance. Communications Officer Mincio Kim approached with an urgent report. "Admiral, the deep space arrays have detected new signals from beyond the galactic rim. Unknown civilizations, approximately 47 light-years from a nearest human outpost. They appear to be attempting first contact." The alien representatives looked up with sudden hope. Perhaps these new species would be different. Perhaps they would be strong enough to challenge human dominance. Dong Hyun's expression did not change, but something like amusement flickered in his eyes. "Interesting. How many civilizations?" "Initial scans suggest at least 12 separate species, sir. Some appear to be more technologically advanced than the former galactic powers." Dong Hyun stood and walked to the great window that looked out into space. In the distance, human patrol ships moved between the stars like sharks in dark water. On worlds that had once been ruled by aliens for millions of years, human children now played in the light of foreign suns. "Prepare first contact protocols," he ordered. "Full cultural analysis, economic evaluation, and strategic assessment. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we may have new neighbors." He turned back to the alien representatives, that same slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You see, the galaxy taught us something important when you declared war. The universe is a very large place, full of species that might one day decide we are too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Ambassador Veldar's crystal form seemed to dim even further. You are going to do to them what you did to us. Only if they make the same mistake you did, Dong Hyun replied. The choice, as always, will be theirs. As the meeting ended and the alien representatives were escorted back to their quarters, Dong Hyun remained at the window. The galaxy had declared war on humanity, expecting to face frightened primitives. Instead, they had awakened something that had been forged by millions of years of evolution on a world where only the strong survived. Now, as humanity looked toward new stars and new civilizations, the lesson was clear. The galaxy had learned what happened when you declare war on Earth. Soon, the universe itself might learn the same lesson.